Hi everyone, this is Julie Bruns. Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. I want you to thrive and be happy, peaceful, and content, no matter where you are on your journey. This podcast shares stories that will show you how it can be done, no matter what your circumstances. You'll be inspired and come away with a new spark of an idea. Never forget, anything is possible. New episodes are released every Wednesday. Subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. This helps others find our content and get happier sooner. To possibility and beyond. Welcome, everyone. My guest this week is Ashley Freeman, and Ashley and I met through an authors summit that we were both part of a couple of months ago. And my publisher, Everett O'Keefe at Ignite Press, was one of the partners in that workshop. And so I just wanted to say hello to him and tell everyone how awesome he is. Again, if you're thinking about writing a book, he's the guy for you. And Ashley and I, we didn't know each other before that, but I remember you, Ashley, being on the call. And I remember hearing from you and thinking, you look like you love what you do. I'd love to talk to you, which is why you're here on the podcast today. So welcome.
Thank you, Julie. It's so wonderful to be here. And it was in a breakout room. I think you said something about you have a podcast about people who love what they do. And I immediately thought, well, we need to talk because the book that I'm writing is getting people to that point. And that's where I am every day. I get to do my dream job. So I can't wait to dive in.
That's awesome. Yes, that's what it's all about. So that's exactly why I have this podcast, so that people can see there are people like you and me doing what they love every day. It's possible. You don't just have to sit in pain and agony at your job every day and wonder how the hell this happened. You can change it, right? Figure it out.
And life is too short to do anything else.
I agree. So let's get into the first thing. So tell everyone what you do. I know a little bit about what you do. Tell everyone your background, what you're doing now, and then if you always saw yourself with the career that you have now.
Great question. The short answer is no, I definitely did not see myself doing this. So background, my college majors were French and music.
Wow.
And today I am a facilitator and a coach. So no.
So funny.
And really back in high school, I wanted to be a graphic designer. So all the arts and humanities are kind of what have been interesting to me my whole life. But where that changed for me, and it's not that I'm not interested, I very much integrate my artistic side into what I do on a daily basis, but where the focus changed for me was really through a series of, just like everyone, I had good bosses and bad bosses. And they both inspired me to really understand what leadership was and what made a good leader and a good experience for an employee. And I just became really curious about that. Ended up going to get an MBA in marketing because I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was interested in terms of marketing was consumer insights. So psychology type of subject, which is what led me to where I am now. So during that program where I thought I was going to get an MBA in marketing, I ended up leading a team for the first time.
Hold on 1 second. All right.
So leading a team is what completely changed my life, really. I fell head over heels in love with leadership in action because I was learning in the classroom at night in my evening MBA program, and then able to apply it directly, sometimes literally the next day at work with my team. And I saw it work magic. I don't use that word lightly. It was magical. So it gave me this fiery passion for wanting to teach everyone, as long as I live, how to lead properly, which isn't entirely what I do today. I certainly do teach leadership principles and work with new managers, but it's broader than that. It morphed into teaching interpersonal skills. I'm Myers-Briggs certified, so I do a lot with personality assessments and workshops, and then just coaching people on their journey from a pain point or a place where they don't have the clarity that they need, something's holding them back, and move them just a little bit on the path through every workshop or every appointment, which is exactly where the book comes in. The book that I'm writing helps people find and live their career purpose. And so everything that I do rolls into that, where I'm helping people move just a little bit along that path every day.
Awesome. There's never straight lines when I'm finding with all the interviews I'm doing. I've done over 80 of them now. And one of the common themes is it's never a straight line. You don't just graduate college or in high school, I think I want to be a doctor. And then you just become a doctor. I mean, that's very rare these days. There are people obviously that do that, or they get to be a doctor and then like, I'm going to be a different kind of doctor or whatever it is. Right. It's never a straight line, which I think is fascinating and what makes life interesting. But also it's important to note something you said with you're doing the MBA in marketing, and then now all of a sudden you're leading a team almost accidentally, and you're like, wait a minute, this is how I'm going to apply everything I've been doing to I love this, so now I'm just going to start going towards that thing. And that's such a big, good lesson for especially young people. I mean, everyone needs it, even middle-aged to older people, but especially younger people, because if you're going towards the thing that you're like, I don't like that, or that I don't really care about that, that's the wrong way to go. You might have to do something in that realm for a little bit. But if you're not going towards that thing where you're like, ooh, that's exciting, then you're never going to find it. So it's so important to just keep turning, pivoting, and modifying what you're doing so that you can finally get to the place, like you said, where now you get to do it all the time because you realize you loved it. You're like, okay, I'm going to keep doing that. Smart.
Right. And it's not quick either. I mean, that path from the day where I was sitting there in an administrative role thinking, what am I going to do when I grow up, to today is, 7 or 8 years. And to your point, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a stepping stone. But there's a big difference between what I think you and I are out advocating against, which is living in a job that you hate or that isn't the right fit for you for whatever reason, and being okay in that uncomfortableness, versus having a plan of where you're going, or at least a lead, and using it as a step to get there. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a step. It's not linear. It's backwards, forwards, up, left, and right. And it takes time. Yeah. Yeah,
for sure. So it's funny that you studied French. I took French in high school. I didn't study it in college, but I joke that I'm a little bit fluent in it. My husband and kids are like, no, you're not. I just say, je m'appelle Julie and bonjour and all this other stuff. And it's funny, like fromage, cheese, whatever. But when you said French, I'm like, I didn't know that about you. It was kind of fun. But so, I mean, you're studying French and music, and then you go to marketing. And you obviously along the way wanted to stay happy and peaceful and content. And you probably didn't realize you weren't happy if you didn't discover what you wanted to do yet. How were you as you were building or as you were in that program and you had your day job and you started leading a team and you're realizing, okay, I'm going to do this, or I really want to get to this yet, but I'm not there yet. What were you doing every day to help you remain peaceful and happy and content, and in that positive mindset of like, okay, I might not be there yet, but I'm getting there. What did you do? What did you do? What did you tell yourself?
What I did was rely on that time outside of work. So hobbies, I had a little arts and crafts business on Etsy, and that wasn't something that paid the bills, but it was something that really kept me happy. Like you said, it was work that I loved, that was fulfilling to me. I taught for years, actually still do, have one music student, but taught French and music lessons at night. I had to stop that when I went to grad school at night, but that's okay because that was fulfilling too. So it really was, I really leveraged that time when I wasn't at the desk working in the job, to do the things that I loved, even if it meant working more, because, I work with a lot of people that are burned out, and the key to getting out of that is using the things that I would call strengths, because they strengthen you. And I got this from Marcus Buckingham's work. So anyone out there who's interested in learning more, check out what he's
please, yes,
what it's all about with the strengths revolution. But so I'm totally borrowing that idea here. But there's a really interesting study that came out of the Mayo Clinic that he references frequently, where they were looking at what causes burnout for doctors. And when they focused on these things that I'm calling strengths, that strengthen you, the word itself, make you feel alive. Time goes by quickly. I'd be sitting there crocheting like a grandma in my apartment and absolutely was just having the time of my life, whatever that is for you. Coaching is another one of mine, but I didn't know that back then. So focusing on those things, even in that study, they found that it only takes 20% of your time, the activities woven into your week of doing those things that strengthen you to fuel you for the rest of it. So using that number, I think, is really, really important data to know that it just a little bit of strength goes a long way. So it's all, I didn't need that much. I just needed a little bit of free time at night or on weekends to do some of those activities that I love that help strengthen me then to do some of the work that, wasn't as fulfilling for me.
I love that. I wrote down what you said. A little bit of strength goes a long way. It's a really beautiful, simple way of thinking about what you're good at and not thinking like I have to be good at all of these things or, I'm weak at these. So I'm going to like really just trudge through it and make all this effort and change all these things and just kind of like commit to like the grind and I'll figure it all out. It's like, no, being strong in something, having strengths, nurturing those takes you so much further than correcting the things that you're not good at. I'm not saying you don't need to correct certain things. If you're bad at some communication, that's a good example. You should probably correct that, right? But it's such a great way to look at it because it is so impactful. And I love Marcus Buckingham's work and that whole like looking at the performance management as not necessarily the best tool in the world. It's really cool. Yeah, I'm glad you referenced that. Okay, so that's smart and taking those things that you're interested in and really nourishing them and devoting time to them instead of saying like I'm just going to work harder. I'm just going to even take the strength that I'm good at and make it better. Just doing the things you enjoy because it's changing so many things in your brain and in your body that are going to help you in all those other areas. Anyways, we're really not taught that when we're growing up and learning and talking about working hard. So those are all super important. I'm glad you talked about those. So what would you say to someone that's doing either that they just graduated from school and they're trying to figure out what they want to do to use their strengths in the world to make money? Obviously, everyone has to have it, make money so they can have it to live. What do you say to people that are trying to build a meaningful career through their strengths? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, this is a really important question for me. And what I've found and the assertion I would give to your audience is that if you want to find what I would call your career purpose, which is kind of what you're talking about, it is not a logical pursuit. It is an emotional one. If you want to get to what you're meant to do on this earth, the work that will fulfill you at the end of the day, where you come home and go, I can't believe I get to do this for money. You cannot get there, in my opinion, by thinking about what's on your resume, the skills you have, and what logically makes sense in your career path, and what companies you have connections in, and there's nothing wrong with those things by any means, but that's not where fulfillment comes from. So what I would say specifically is, okay, well, what do you do with that? What do I mean by emotion? What I mean by that is what I would call leads. So it's a feeling, and even though this isn't a touchy-feely subject or woo-woo or what, it's data that you're gathering. Only you can feel excited about the prospect of a certain activity or career or job, and only you can feel repulsed by it. Other people can't feel that for you, so it's work that only you can do. Yeah. And that feeling that you get is data, like I said, and it's the fastest, quickest, most direct data to tell you what it is that will fulfill you. So if, for example, in my story, where the marketing lead came from, I was in an administrative role. I had some marketing tasks as part of my job duties. And so it was natural for me to collaborate in some capacity with the marketing team who sat in the next room from me at the time. But I found myself drawn to them, wanting to go talk to them more. What are they doing? About what's going on? And that's something that someone on the outside can't look at me and say, oh, you might be good at marketing. That's something that I had to feel myself being drawn to them and excited to work with them, and conversely feeling repulsed by say putting a report together or something numbers crunching, because I'm a people person. But and people can to some degree tell you, oh, you're really good at building relationships, or you're great at culture and that kind of thing. But it's so specific and direct when you feel that feeling. And the key is to follow those leads relentlessly. Because there's always going to be there's always going to be some reason logically not to do it. It's less pay, or I need to take care of this instead, or whatever. It's not the right time. You'll always have a reason not to follow it. Or a dead end, or something that, is not totally clear. Like, you like a certain, I don't know, directionally, what you want, but it's not super clear. So you don't do anything. You can't, if you're going to find meaningful work, you can't let that stop you. You have to just go with what you do know and follow them relentlessly.
I love that. Follow it relentlessly. I was told to, in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to study. I knew I wanted to help people. I love psychology, but I'm like, I don't want to necessarily be a doctor or a therapist. What am I going to do? I want to understand the way people think. And people along the way said, well, you're really good with people. You should be in marketing and sales. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I'll major in. Like you said, I was just like listening to other people saying, you can do this. I wasn't like, am I drawn to it? I knew I wasn't drawn to sales because I'm not motivated by money. I knew I'm not a competitive person. But I think I could do marketing. It's more about telling people what your products are. I'm like, I can do that. In my head, I'm just thinking, not I love it. I'm thinking I can do that. And that's not the right attitude to have. So I majored in it. I took 3 years of college in marketing. End of my junior year in college, I was like, I think I want to be a teacher. But I'm like, if I switch now, I just lost 3 years because it's all different coursework for teaching. So exactly. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm paying for my education by myself. Even if I wasn't, I still would be like, I don't want to waste that money. So I'll finish this and then I'll go get my master's in teaching, which is what I did. And then it ended up being a perfect scenario anyways, because my bachelor's was economics and marketing and my MA in teaching. But the two of them together were business and teaching and I knew I didn't want to teach in a school. So, but I knew I wanted to be as a teacher trainer or whatever. So it ended up being perfect for me, as is always the case, because then I went towards something I loved. But I started 3 years doing stuff that, I didn't love, but I was like, I'm good at it. I'm a good student. I know how to get a good grade and pay attention and write good papers, but I wasn't going towards what I loved at all. And so I would say the same thing as you, like go towards those things that you get those inklings and those feelings. No one can tell you what your feelings are. And I just wasn't paying attention and I wasted 3 years in money, right?
Yes. And the world will give you a million logical reasons not to listen to that emotion. Like you said, you'd be backtracking. I hear that a lot. And I understand that's frustrating, but you can't have both. You can't go in a linear line and find the perfect meaningful job for you. It just doesn't work that way.
No, and the more reason, this is why I have the podcast, the more people you can see that it's never a linear line. I've talked to over 80 people. Not one person has said, yep, I decided it's at 15, I was going to do this and now I'm doing it. Like maybe one person, and they're not even doing exactly the way they thought they were going to do it. So it really is important. I think, especially younger people see people going to school, like an engineer is a good example. I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to graduate with a degree and I'm going to go get an engineering job. Mm-hmm. That happens. I mean, that happened to my older son, but it wasn't aligned to get there. He had to do a lot of digging to figure out what he wanted and a lot of hard work. But that's not typical. It's usually like, I think I made a mistake, or I think I love this too. I'm going to double major. I'm going to change my major. I'm going to get another degree, whatever it is, but don't stop, because when you stop, that means you're never going to figure it out.
That's right. And the other thing that really holds people back, I think, is the fear of the risk sometimes. If you have to take a pay cut, or, in my case, I just quit and started my own business. And for me personally to do what I love, that was necessary. And there are a lot of people that will very understandably be afraid of that risk. But the cost is just, you don't get to do what you love. And I just think that's tragic.
Yeah, I agree. Tragic's a good word. Risk versus cost. A lot of great tips, Ashley. You're in the right line of work. If you haven't figured that out already, you're giving some great advice. I'm really happy we're talking. So is there anything you wished you had learned earlier in your life or career?
Well, beyond what we've already talked about,
Mhm.
I would say for me personally, it was, if I could go back to a younger version of myself, I would say it's okay to take breaks.
Yeah.
I think that we're in a busier and busier world where somehow it's become a badge of honor to be on back-to-back Zooms or meetings or to be really busy. It's a like a status, like you've made it, you're a busy executive, and that is first of all, that's no way to live. That's not
Mhm.
healthy.
Right. Right.
um, and and second of all, it hinders your performance. We're not
Yeah.
made to operate at peak performance constantly all day, every day, and operate at full potential and capacity.
Yep.
It's something I've had to learn the hard way, just because I see how much I could do, and I'm really motivated to do it. Doesn't mean that I can do maximum capacity all day, every day, and moreover, that taking the breaks actually helps you do more work because your body is fueled to get to the tasks adequately. So
I love that advice. You're right on mark. I actually wrote about this in my book. The concept, and my husband said it last, I was talking to him earlier today. He's like, I'm really busy. And the joke in our house now is stop, say something else. Say something original. Who isn't busy, right? I don't care if you have a full-time job, have your own business, don't work at all, have kids, no kids, doesn't matter. Everyone is busy in their own way. And so I joke in the book, how about doing something about it so it's not the first thing you say to people when you meet them or see them? How are you? I'm so busy. Like you said, why is that a badge of honor? Why is that a good thing? So I'm busy. I'm loving my life. I can't get enough, whatever. I'm doing everything I love, something else. But like, I think that's going to be my mission this year. Like, let's say something else besides I'm so busy. I think I'm going to write a little blog about it, because if you are running your life that way, there's no way you're working, like you say, as full capacity at everything you're doing. You're not taking enough breaks. You're probably not healthy mentally or physically, right? You're probably not treating the people that you live with the best way you could. So all of these other things are negatively impacting your busy life, and you're not any different than anyone else on the planet.
Yeah.
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 The other, I think the other most common answer to how are you is I'm tired, for the same reasons.
Yeah.
We're
Like,
burning ourselves
I'm so
out.
tired. It's like, gosh, it's like never the first thing I say, unless I don't even know if I would say it. Even if I was super tired, I would be like, I'm great. I'm just low energy today because whatever, like, I don't even know that I would say, it's just not a really appropriate thing to say. Unless it was like your best friend, like, how have you been feeling? I know you were sick last week. We're still really tired. That makes sense. But not just, yeah, I agree. That's so funny. Okay. So final question for you. What is the greatest gift? This is uncomfortable for people. The greatest gift that you offer the world every day?
I think I've mentioned it, which is just this moving people a little bit on their path or a lot on their path. It might be, it's what I love about coaching in particular, is that in 1 hour you can see somebody's perspective change completely. That's not every single coaching session every time, but it can, and it does happen. And it's something that is deeply meaningful to me to be able to see that, whether it's through training or coaching or personality assessments or group coaching or whatever it is that I'm doing, that there's, again, one little movement on the path. It's no accident that I name my company Flourishing Work in the present tense. It's not something we necessarily arrive at a destination, but if I'm able to help somebody move just a little bit more on that path, then my day is made. And I get to do that every day in my work, which is why I love what I do.
I have another question. It wasn't on our list, but it's making me think, because I did the same thing as you. I just quit my job to build my business and write my book and my podcast and everything. You did the same. What gave you the guts to do it? What gave you the clarity to do it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I was really lucky in hindsight. It's not something that everybody has the kind of push out the door that I did. It was, in my case, it was a very unhealthy environment.
Okay.
That was, really just that. It was unhealthy, and it became something that I had to do. And I don't know, the reason I say I'm thankful is because I don't know that I would have had the guts to do it otherwise. But it doesn't have to be that drastic. It can be, network on the side, start building start working on things. You don't have to just quit cold turkey. And even if you did, you still need a support system and some things in place. So it doesn't have to be that drastic.
Yeah, no, I agree. It doesn't have to be. It's just interesting because I did the same thing, and it's never really recommended to do it that way. But as you learned, and I've learned from past experiences too, the pain has to be greater, or
Yes.
the benefit has to be greater than the pain, or the pain has to be greater than what you're going to risk. And in your case, it was, which is why you left, because it wasn't worth the risk anymore. It wasn't worth your health. And and if something is making you that miserable, it isn't worth it. It's not meant to be. No one's meant to feel that way. Number one, no, and nothing good's really ever going to come out of that. It's not like you're going to have this light bulb moment in an environment like that. It's draining you in other ways. It's just not how it works. So good for you for doing it. Good for you for getting out and doing the thing that you are drawn to be doing. And now and you're a perfect example of, you went towards the thing that it was leading you that direction, which was helping people and helping them have fulfilling work and see purposeful careers that are possible. And so good for you.
Well, thank you. The best thing, it's totally unintended consequence, or that sounds like a negative connotation, but totally unintended effect, I guess, is that it inspires other people to make positive changes in their lives. I'm so thankful it happened. It was difficult to go through, but there are people that reach out to me all the time. Anyone, listening, I'm happy to chat as well. Just really like, how did you do it? How did you find the courage? And I don't think you find courage. I think, like you said, it just becomes one or the other, and one path is more painful than the other.
Mm-hmm. You're right. That's a good point. You don't really find courage. You have to, you have to take the leap or whatever it is. Good for you.
You have to realize that it's like that word tragic was intentional as well. When I said that earlier, that life is too short to live anything other than your dream job. And it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
But there are things you can do today to start on that path, and there's no other way to live. And when you realize that, then the pain of staying where you are becomes greater.
Yeah, for sure. So if people want to work with you, they want career coaching. Tell us a little bit about your book. When's it coming out? And what's it called, if you know? And then what else? Anything else you want to promote?
Sure. I don't have a specific timeline yet. Probably sometime this year, 2021. And I don't yet have a working title. I want to do that much later in the process, but the topic is about finding and living your career purpose. So that will be, the topic. If people want to learn more, they can visit my website. That's flourishingworkllc.com. Or follow me on, any of the social media. They're all the same, Flourishing Work LLC, with the exception of Twitter, because it was too many characters. That one's Flourish Work LLC.
Funny. Okay. So people want to work with you one-on-one. That's the main thing you offer.
So facilitation and coaching. So if you need, if your organization needs a facilitator, or if you individually are looking for a coach or Myers-Briggs assessment, all of that, there's a form on my website, or a time to book a 30-minute chat with me, which would be the best place to start. Or you can just shoot me an email, Ashley@flourishingworkllc.com. Awesome.
Thanks, Ashley. I know you're going to inspire people. I really appreciate all your wisdom and insight. And I took lots of notes, so it's going to be a fun thing to write about, because you had a lot of good tips. And that's what I love leaving people with. You never know what's going to speak to each person. What they're going to remember. Like what spoke to me isn't necessarily what's going to speak to the people that are listening, but I like to grab it all. You had a lot of great things to say. So congratulations on the work you're doing, and keep doing it. And the more people that are like you on the planet that can say to everyone else, like, it's possible to have it, here's how I can help you, the better. Because I just want everyone, I just envision everyone just sitting wherever they are in their life going like, I love this work. And the more you can feel like that every day, all day, how could the planet not be better for it, right?
Amen, sister.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this and inviting all the wonderful guests that you have. It's important work. doing the same thing really, and any way that I can support is something I'd be glad to do. So thank you as well.
Thank you. All right, take care, everyone. Check out Ashley's website, flourishingworkllc.com. Thanks for listening. If you love this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person can live their lives happily, doing work they love.